one I've ever seen. Aloha!
Aloha!
Good to see you all here. I'm very proud to be here for many reasons in support of Bernie Sanders, but proud to be here and just express our solidarity with CWA and all that you all are going through here. As I have traveled with Senator Sanders across the country to different states, I have always been pleasantly surprised to see a CWA leader or member popping up and coming up and saying hello. And all of you know, I hope, what an impact your support for Senator Sanders has had really tremendously. And we love working with your team in DC. So,
thank you.
Glad to be here with you. Of course, you know, this is a Veterans Town Hall. I'm proud to be here amongst fellow veterans from different generations, really because of the bond that exists between us. No matter where I go in the country, whether I'm back home in Hawaii, just last week I spent time with World War II veterans who were part of the famous 442nd Regimental Combat Team, the All-Nisei, the Japanese-American veteran unit that went and fought during World War II at a time when their family members were being interned and discriminated against simply because they were Japanese Americans. The youngest guy there was 92 years old, but he was sharing the stage with veterans who are still in that same unit, who are young, you know, 22-year-old kids, wearing that same patch and really symbolizing that bond of service, that unbreakable bond that exists between those who've worn the uniform. No matter how old you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your experience, that bond of putting mission first, of putting country first, and understanding in the most real way what selfless service means, what it means to put others before yourself. And that's a powerful thing, and it's a powerful message, and it's what our country needs the most right now. When you look at a lot of things that Senator Sanders talks about, whether he's talking about greed, whether he's talking about income inequality and building a moral economy, really this is all centered around what I talk about quite frequently, which is servant leadership. Having leaders in business, in the military, in our community, in society, in government, in politics, who are in it to help others, to make that positive impact, rather than thinking first for their own self-interest or their own bottom line. As I've gotten to know Senator Sanders and obviously have learned much of him before I ever met him, I have been proud of the record that he has shown and the commitment he has shown on taking care of our veterans. Time and time again, he talks about the cost of war, and that if we can't afford to take care of our veterans, we shouldn't be sending them to war. He's talked about the consequences of these decisions that leaders in Washington make that very directly impact every single one of you, with your lives, with your spouses, your family members, your kids, your future generations. No one understands more than you, more than veterans who have experienced war, what that actually means and what the cost of war is. When people, and I hear this all the time in Washington, people talk about the cost of the Department of Defense, the cost of the planes and tanks and guns and new weapon systems and new technologies. They oftentimes, unfortunately, fail to recognize that the true cost of war is actually borne and carried on the shoulders of our brothers and sisters who wear the uniform, who are part of that less than 1% who go out and put their lives on the line for all of us, for our country. And to me, that's what's at stake in this election. We can go down the laundry list of all the things that Senator Sanders has done throughout the last 30 years in taking care of our veterans, and the list is long. I'm not going to read out every single thing. I think you're all well aware. But really, when I look at who our next president is going to be, who our next commander-in-chief will be, that is the most important responsibility that a president has, is their job as commander-in-chief. So when I look at Bernie Sanders, and I look at the other candidates who are running, I'm supporting Bernie Sanders because he has that intelligence, he has the good judgment, and he has that foresight to make those most important decisions of choosing war or peace. of deciding when and where it's necessary, as it sometimes is, to use military power, to go after those like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, those who threaten the safety and security of the American people, our families and our communities. And just as importantly, making that decision when not to use that military power. Making that decision to say, no, that is an unnecessary war that will not only cost our country dearly, but will actually undermine our national security by strengthening our enemies, strengthening groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And that's really where there's a key contrast between Senator Sanders and Secretary Clinton in this choice that's coming before you all very soon. When it comes to the question of these unnecessary interventionist regime change wars that we've seen in Iraq, we know where the two of them stand on that. That we've seen in Libya, we know where the two of them stand on that. And the current unnecessary, counterproductive regime change war that's taking place today in Syria. And the two of them are on opposite sides on that. Secretary Clinton has time and time again chosen to take this interventionist path that has cost our country so much in your taxpayer dollars and in human lives, both ours and those in the countries in the Middle East. Whereas Senator Sanders has chosen time and again, recognizing the consequences of these decisions and to not get into these interventionist regime change wars. The cost is great in treasure, the cost is great in human lives, but it truly has shown again in Iraq, Libya, and Syria that this has strengthened groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda rather than keeping our country safe. It has served to undermine our national security. So as you go out and you talk with folks, encouraging them to get out and vote, encouraging them to support Senator Sanders, your voices as veterans in particular carry so much credibility because you know what this is. You felt it yourself. Your families have felt it. And so when people ask you, why should I support Senator Sanders? And they might bring up different questions. You can speak from a place of sincerity and truth because you understand what the cost of war really is. This is something that has not only to do with veterans, not only to do with our national security. When we talk about the cost of war, it has directly to do with our ability to invest in our communities, invest in our infrastructure, and invest in our economy. Rather than spending trillions and trillions of dollars on these unnecessary wars, we should be taking that money and investing them here at home. I can speak for my community in Hawaii, as I know you can here, about how sorely those resources are needed, whether it's infrastructure or schools or jobs. So to me, the choice is very clear. I hope that all of you will support Senator Sanders to be our next President Commander-in-Chief and to get out there and work really, really hard every day to be able to spread that message to other people. Thank you very much.